Back in middle school, I was a huge fan of the LEGO Star Wars games, but after beating the complete saga in 2007, I closed the book on LEGO games. Then I saw the trailer for LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga and thought it might be time to revisit the series I had long forgotten. These abridged and humorous versions of the Star Wars tales that TT Games have crafted are splendid. The reimagined gameplay has more depth, but is still simple and a joy to play. All packaged and presented with staggering visuals and the classic soundtrack we all love. Keep the high ground and join me as I take a closer look at LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga allows you to play through all three Star Wars film trilogies, but with that endearing LEGO charm. The stories follow the same plot points as the movies, so anyone that is familiar with the Star Wars films will feel right at home. But what will make this trip around the block unique is the abridged script and witty humor. The way jokes have been injected into the story reminds me of Dragon Ball Z Abridged, but in a more family-friendly manner. I actually laughed out loud several times and was surprised at the writer's insistence on including jokes even in the most serious of moments. Abbreviating the script and punching it up with jokes ensures that the game can exist on its own without feeling like a shot-for-shot remake with LEGO pieces. But with that abbreviation comes some odd pacing fluctuations. LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga is essentially 9 two-hour stories crammed into one package, and that results in some moments being cut short. For example, the scene at the end of Episode 3 with Obi-Wan and Anakin, which is a monumental moment, felt like it didn't have time to breathe. I think it makes sense to have to do that considering the game is for children, it's not a shot-for-shot remake, and there's so much packaged into this one game, but it can feel a little jarring if you're familiar with the source material. This happens several times throughout the 9 episodes, and it's not always a bad thing, but anyone expecting this game to stay true to every aspect of the film it's derived from will likely be disappointed. All this comes together in a way that I feel is a more fun way to revisit the series rather than rewatching the films. If you're like me, you've seen all the movies countless times and the idea of sitting down to rewatch them has lost some of its magic. I wasn't the biggest fan of The Last Jedi, but after playing it in LEGO form, I actually like it a lot more and even felt a bit of nostalgia simmering to the surface. I didn't think it was possible for me to enjoy that story, but TT Games made that happen, and that's quite a feat if you ask me. The story is familiar, but stands on its own as an endearing take on fan-favorite stories. The injected humor allows the game to stand on its own and even makes less preferable Star Wars stories enjoyable. But the abbreviation of the script results in some understandable pacing issues that extend to gameplay in a less understandable way. LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga is a 3D action-adventure game that is packed with tons of playable characters, hidden secrets, and worlds to explore. The reimagined gameplay results in a unique collection of LEGO Star Wars games instead of it being a remake of the complete saga with episodes 7 through 9 included, but the sheer amount of content may have resulted in some quantity over quality. While romping through the galaxy, I found myself falling victim to the heads-up display leading me from destination to destination. Once I realized the hub spaces were open areas to explore and were filled with secrets, I began to explore a bit in between missions. This is when TT Games' world building and nods to the Star Wars franchise began to really make itself known. Whether I was collecting Kyber bricks to purchase upgrades in the skill trees, or talking to an NPC who had a surprisingly funny line of dialogue, stopping to smell the roses was always rewarded. Each episode has 5 chapters to play through with all new gameplay mechanics for the LEGO games format. Jedi can take advantage of lightsabers and force combat, which feels familiar in the best way possible. Where things got more interesting to me were the blaster-wielding characters. The third-person shooter combat felt surprisingly great, and I honestly preferred to play through the game with someone like Han Solo or Finn. There are a ton of character types and you can swap through them on the fly to unlock hidden areas. I loved being able to pick my favorite Jedi, Scoundrel, Scavenger, Bounty Hunter, etc. and swapping to them whenever I discovered a hidden area of a level. I was collecting studs and Kyber bricks throughout my playthrough without really knowing when I would start spending them, but around halfway I started buying characters and upgrades. Then I started really exploring and the experience was enriched tenfold. I enjoyed the second half of the game way more than I did the first because I didn't fully grasp all the features that were on offer. It may be a personal problem, but I don't feel like the game successfully communicated all of these features to me. I had to start exploring the menus and ask questions, which is fine, but I wonder if a child would realize how deep these gameplay systems go. The combat and puzzles are simple by default, as I imagine children are the target audience for this game, but for an adult Star Wars fan looking for anything more than a funny, lighthearted romp through your favorite Star Wars stories, I think you may find something to be desired. However, you can go into the menus and toggle a number of settings to tailor the difficulty to how you see fit, which is greatly appreciated. The pacing I mentioned in the story extends to the gameplay in a way that I found more troubling. For example, the Battle of Naboo asked me to fight off a handful of droids and reload a couple of catapults. It only lasted about 2 minutes and then I was off to fight Darth Maul. It felt like I was rushed through it because if the battle wasn't included, the box wouldn't be checked. A battle of that scale shouldn't feel like an afterthought, but to be fair, characters like Boba Fett and Captain Phasma have more screen time in these games thanks to the gameplay sections, and I really love that. There were also some input bugs that affected my entire playthrough. When playing as a Jedi, objects that can be interacted with have a blue aura around them. Pressing B will force push them, releasing a grip of studs for you to collect. What happened 9 times out of 10 was that I'd press B and my character would pull out their lightsaber instead of force pushing the object. It sounds like a minor complaint, but it happened almost every time I tried to force push an object. These input issues extended to scaling climbable areas, which resulted in me almost getting to the top of a huge wall, pressing A to jump to the last handhold, only for my character to jump off the wall completely. I would often have to repeat these sections several times and got pretty frustrated near the end of the game. I don't like to end on a negative note, so allow me to tell you that the spaceship dogfighting missions in this game are phenomenal. I would love a game that allowed me to fly around space, taking down convoys, star destroyers, and Death Stars. The piloting feels great and is super responsive, but this does not extend to the pod racing section in episode 1. That was super janky and floaty in the worst way possible, but thank goodness they nailed the starfights. I may end up revisiting the game just to live out my X-Wing pilot dreams, which reminds me that I need to check out Star Wars Squadrons. Overall, the gameplay is fun, and despite its issues, I enjoyed it a ton. There are so many different ways to play through the game thanks to the variety of characters you have to choose from, especially when you get access to the free play mode for each mission. I think LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga has a lot to offer that makes up for its minor inconveniences. Not to mention, while playing incredibly well, it looks fantastic. One would think that a LEGO game's visuals would be plain, with simple textures, and cache the "it's just a LEGO game" check to give it a pass. But LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga's visuals are staggering. The creativity expressed in incorporating LEGO pieces into almost everything is imaginative, and the attention to detail leaves something to be discovered at every opportunity. I never thought this game would make me stop and pan the camera around to take in its beauty, but I found myself doing that on almost every level that I played. Even the little details, like the copyright LEGO logo on every LEGO piece and the raised paint on the character's face, make them look like actual LEGO pieces. If the movement wasn't so fluid, one could mistake this for stop-motion animation. The photorealistic environments and landscapes elevate the visuals, and they were executed immaculately. The skyboxes and textures used in the environments contrast the LEGO pieces, highlighting their interactability, and it works incredibly well. I would like to say that I did notice some dynamic resolution scaling during the sections that allow you to swap to different characters in other sections of the level. You're essentially loading 2 different sections of the map that are running simultaneously to enable the quick swapping, so this dip in resolution makes sense. I don't know how low the resolution dropped, but it was noticeable. Overall, the game is stunning and an achievement that TT Games should be proud of. Everything about it is reminiscent of Star Wars, and by that measure, LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga's visual design is an accomplishment. The iconic Star Wars soundtrack is featured to elicit all the emotions and nostalgia associated with the Star Wars franchise. The music in this game is great by default, but the way certain tracks are implemented is expertly done. Walking past a room and hearing the muffled Mos Eisley Cantina music playing on the other side of the closed door makes the world feel alive. The Star Wars soundtrack alone can get me in my nostalgia feels, so just its inclusion is a win for this game in my opinion. To be fair, you couldn't really have this game not include the original soundtrack, but it's still a win in my eyes. Now, I did not realize that LEGO games are fully voice acted now. At first, I was a little let down by this because I thought a lot of the charm of the expressive LEGO characters would be lost, but I was surprised at how much I liked the voice acting, and I think that speaks to the skills of the actors cast for each role. I did discover the mumble mode in the settings about a quarter of the way through my playthrough, and I turned it on for a bit, but actually switched it back off. I love that the feature is there, but I've been successfully converted into a pro voice acting in LEGO games person. A quick side note, the voice voice actors managed to capture the nuances of each character's voice. I knew there was no way that TT Games got the original actors to reprise their roles for a LEGO game, but finding voice actors that were able to convey the characters perfectly is awesome. I was equally comforted by familiarity and caught off guard by the music and audio in this game. The sound of a lightsaber humming, the subtle differences between the blasters on different spaceships and blasters, and the distortion of Kylo Ren's force powers are iconic. TT Games captured the magic of these sounds, and that should be applauded. In the name of full transparency, I didn't play much of the multiplayer, but I did briefly play some split-screen co-op with my girlfriend, and was happy to see that the resolution dips seen in the sections of the game I mentioned before were nowhere to be seen. If it's happening, it wasn't noticeable. We played a side mission and flew around in spaceships, and at no point was the split screen jarring. LEGO games used to have players share a screen until they walked far away enough from one another and then the screen would split, but in LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga, it's always split, but that wasn't really an issue. I could see running through the entire game in cooperative mode, and it would be a great way to experience the game. This would be a great game to play with a spouse, friend, child, or sibling. It's easy to pick up and play together, and I didn't even have to sign anyone in. I literally just had a second controller turned on and booted up the game. My save was loaded, and there were 2 players on the screen. It was pretty cool. LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga is the definitive collection of LEGO Star Wars games. Each story is included, with optional downloadable content for The Mandalorian and Solo, and I imagine more are on the way. There are a plethora of characters to play as and so many secrets to discover across the galaxy of planets. The game looks and sounds amazing while tapping into the deep-rooted nostalgia that Star Wars fans hold near and dear. I honestly can't think of a better way to revisit the series. I'm more likely to replay this game than to rewatch the films, and I sincerely can't believe I'm saying that. Despite some input hiccups, this game coming together so well and being jam-packed with content is nothing short of a miracle. TT Games really outdid themselves, and I hope they continue to make more LEGO games and explore other franchises. LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga is a fantastic action-adventure game that successfully lives up to its source material. It has some pacing issues and a handful of other nitpicks, but overall, it's a fantastic game. For those looking for a score, I'd say LEGO Star Wars The Skywalker Saga is a 4.5 out of 5. Thank you so much for your time and attention, it means the world to me. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel. I make reviews, retrospectives, and other gaming related videos. I also host and produce a weekly Nintendo-centric podcast called Me, Myself, and I that you may want to check out. I also write for lordsofgaming.net. If you're looking for a gaming website comprised of game enthusiasts that love games and just want to write about them, look no further. lordsofgaming.net is where you need to go. Again, thank you for watching. Lead with love and stay hydrated.